Okay, so those positive evidence questions, you know, those ones that are either neutral, tell me about a team experience, or tell me about a time when you were successful in meeting a deadline, you should use this model called STAR. It's a model that employers expect your responses to be in when they ask you a behavioral question. I know for a fact that Cash America International, Pier 1, Lockheed Martin, when they interview candidates, their note sheet actually has STAR on it. And so it's really important that you use this model. The other reason why it's important is because it makes it more organized for you to tell your story. Your response to a behavioral question should be anywhere from 90 seconds to 2 minutes. No more, and certainly not much less. One pitfall that we typically see when people use this model is that they stop after they talk about all the action they did, and they never tell us the result of the actions they took. The result is so important. That's the kind of person I want working for me, that can get stuff done in a positive way. But if you don't tell them that, then you just really sold yourself short. So the result, very critical in that. All right, the other model that is not as well known, but still a model in general that is used in many companies, I find it to be very useful when you are asked negative contrary evidence questions about those ones where there was a possible negative outcome. And it's called SHARE. It's an interview response model. And you'll see it's somewhat similar. You have the situation, you have the action, you have the results, but there's two additional items. You have the hindrance. So what obstacles got in your way? And then you have the evaluation. Well, based on your inability to be successful, what did you learn? And that is the really important outcome from this model, because employers will be impressed if you can tell them some insight about what you learned based on somewhere where you fell short or didn't meet the expectation. And so it's a good model, I think, to use for overcoming those negative evidence questions. The more recent the experience, the more powerful it is. But that being said, depending on the question, you always want to pick the best example that fits the question. So just because you had a recent experience where you were creative in solving a problem, let's say you did something creative recently, but it was a very small project or had very little impact, but you did something 2 years ago that was really powerful. Use the example from 2 years ago. Is it okay to pause during an interview? So you get asked a question. It's 3 seconds. Probably feels like 5 minutes when you're in an interview. I get that. That feels like a long time. It is okay on occasion to have a pause for the question. It is. Give yourself a few seconds. Your brain can process thousands of thoughts in a few seconds, and you're bound to come up with something good. What you don't want to do is feel pressured to start talking about something, and then you're telling me about how you proposed to your fiance. Allow yourself time to think if you need it. The downside of that, though, is if you do that every time, it's going to look as if you're not as prepared. And that preparation should consist of you sitting down and thinking through what are some of the most recent examples I can use to talk about my ability to lead others, my ability to reach goals, my abilities to problem solve, my abilities to overcome conflict. You should be thinking about experiences prior to the interview so you know what you want to talk about before you go in.